So in this video, I would like to talk about 10 things I have realized about being in Malaysia and 10 culture shocks that I have experienced here in Malaysia. Yeah, I came to Malaysia around November 2021 and it's been like 9 to 10 months since I came here, and I know a little bit more about Malaysia and I think I have realized so many things, so I would like to share in this video. So let's go. So the first thing I want to talk about is the QR code menu in Malaysia in restaurants. If you go to a restaurant in Malaysia like Mama or like Chinese hawker shop,
fry it a bit until it's fragrant.
Almost everywhere has like a QR code menu at the restaurant, and if you want to order it, you just scan the QR code and you can, order something with your phone. And this is not very common in Japan, to be honest. I haven't really seen like restaurants that have the QR code system, like QR code menu system, and I think it's very, very useful and I really like it, and I think it's very efficient, and I really admire the technology usage here. And yeah, if you think like Japan is like a technologically advanced country, I think some part are not, and I will be like mentioning a lot about like technology side of Malaysia. So even though the QR code menu is very, very useful, I personally like to see the paper menu, to be honest. It's just my preference.
I get a nice rice cooker.
I think it's easier for me to see everything with the paper menu, and I can like see what I want to eat, like rather than clicking the categories of the food. So I just personally prefer like paper menu, but I think a QR code menu is very useful and very smart, I would say. So the next thing I want to talk about is Grab. It's like another technology side of culture shock I had in Malaysia. And for those of you who don't know about Grab, it's like a share ride service like Uber if you live in the United States or Europe. And it's very, very convenient. Like you can book a car by using the app on your phone, then the car will come and you can see the location of the car, and the car will take you to the destination. And I would say it's very, very cheap and very affordable compared to Japanese taxi. And it will be like 2 or 3 or even 4 or 5 times more like cheaper than using Japanese taxi.
My god, they think money go on tree paying £8 for egg fried rice. Hiya.
And when I say those kind of things, you might be thinking I don't know anything about technology, but the fact is Japan has no such thing like share ride service. So what you have to do in Japan is that you have to search like taxi companies on the website, and you have to select the company from like a lot of the companies, and you call them and you have to see if the car is available or not, or like the driver is there or not. And if the driver is not there, not available, you have to call another company and you have to wait for like 20 to 30 minutes for the car to come. Then you can finally go to your destination. And the problem is that they don't use the GPS, so you don't really know the location of the car unless you use the Google Map or anything. For them to measure the price of the taxi, like they usually use like physical measures, so they have to press the start button physically and stop the button physically, and that's how they measure the price. And sometimes the price is different and price changes depending on the person, the driver, and it's very, very expensive, I would say. So after arriving to Malaysia, I started to use the Grab and I realized how useful it is, and I felt like it's such an easy way to travel from one place to another. And yeah, I'm really glad that I could use this technology, and I'm really hoping that Japan will be able to use this kind of system near in the future.
Uncle Roger said, smack like button now, like how your parents smack you.
So the third thing I want to talk about is the train and the punctuality of the Malaysia. And I heard a lot about like punctuality in Malaysia or South Asian countries. And a lot of people say that like people here are like a little bit lazy, a little bit easygoing, relaxed, and not very punctual. But when I came here, I realized like a lot of things are actually punctual. And when I actually use like MRT station, which is like a train like station. And MRT is very new and it was built like very recently, I assume. And the train is very clean compared to Japanese trains. It's very, very clean and very fast. And they come like every 5 minutes, and it's very, very punctual. Like when I see the signboard time schedule, they come at the exact same time. In addition to that, they don't even have a driver. That's a very surprising. That it's not very common in Japan. And when you see the Japanese trains, you can see like some trains are very, very old, and some trains have like old system. Like some trains are not very like adjusted to like the platform, like they change the trains and platforms, so there's a huge gap between platform and train, and sometimes it's very dangerous. Compared to those, I think like especially MRT is very useful, and I've been using a lot. Yeah, in a nutshell, I was very surprised like how clean the MRT is and how clean the seats are, and punctuality of the MRT station. So I am very glad that I could, come here, use MRT. The fourth thing I have realized about Malaysia is it's very common thing, but food is very good.
He cooked rice in rice cooker.
It was something that I have heard before about Malaysia, and a lot of Japanese people come here because of the food.
Uncle Roger never measure because Asian people, when we cook, we don't measure. We just use feeling.
There are so many other reasons, but food could be like one of the biggest reasons why Japanese people want to move here in Malaysia. And food is like absolutely great, and I really love like Japanese food here as well. Like usually when I go to abroad, like Japanese restaurants are not very nice like compared to real Japanese restaurants. But when I came here in Malaysia and I have visited some restaurants, like Japanese restaurants, and the tastes are quite nice, and actually it's like as tasty as like Japanese ones, so I'm very happy about it. On top of that, there's so many cheap foods available in Malaysia, and like if you go to like Mama, which is like a local restaurants, and Mama or Chinese hawker shops, like outside restaurants, it's very affordable and very cheap. I really love the taste as well, and I think you can charge like 2 or 3 times more in Japan, like if you have that kind of quality of the foods. So for me, I really appreciate those kind of restaurants that I can enjoy every day, and I can become more and more healthy since I came to Malaysia. I don't usually eat a lot, so being in Malaysia makes me eat, so which is very good for me. I really love food here in Malaysia and local restaurants in Malaysia. I mean every food is very good. So the fifth thing I didn't know about here in Malaysia is that the necessity of learning Malay. I saw some videos about like Japanese people coming to Malaysia and like live there for a long time, and I have heard a lot of people saying that if you can speak English, they will understand, so you don't really have to worry about like speaking Malay. But the reality is that I kind of had to learn how to speak Malay, just a little bit of like basic phrases for me to be able to order something at the local restaurants or to talk to the guards. So what I have realized was that those people who are saying that English is very common in Malaysia and you can speak English and they will understand, they meant like people, for those who live in a city or who goes to the big city malls in Malaysia. But if you really want to go deep into the local side, yeah, of course you have to speak Malay, but I feel like being able to speak Malay is very useful when I go to like local restaurants especially, and I would just say like na ini satu, na ini dua or something, If I could say those things, it's way easier for me to communicate with other people who don't speak English. So that's something I have realized about Malaysia. I really recommend people to learn Malay if you are planning to come to Malaysia. So the next thing I want to talk about is Malaysia being a car society, and it's not very common in Japan, and I have realized so many differences between Japanese car society and Malaysian car society. So to be honest, I feel a little bit dangerous to walk across around like Malaysian roads or like walk around in Malaysia, because cars are usually driving very fast and the cars don't usually wait for the pedestrians, so I feel a little bit dangerous, to be honest. And at the same time, what I have realized was like there is no like traffic lights for the pedestrians, so if you want to walk across the roads, you kind of have to see whether the car is coming or not, and you have to cross the road very quickly and you have to wait for the cars to pass by. In Japan, usually cars wait for the pedestrians, and I had an opportunity to drive a car here in Malaysia, and when I was driving, I saw the pedestrians walking, like people walking across the street. So when I saw that, I stepped on the brake and I was waiting for the people to go across the road. But surprisingly, people were waiting for me to go, which is not very common in Japan. So like I was like, should I go there or not? Like, can I go there, or I was very confused, and I have realized, oh, this is like a very car prioritized society, I would say. That was not something I was used to, and I think I need to be careful when I walk around in Malaysia. So the next thing I want to talk about is big malls in Malaysia, like especially in Kuala Lumpur. So there's so many big malls in Malaysia, and I was very surprised by it. And they're very clean, and you can see so many varieties of food, restaurants, clothes, like shops, movie theaters, karaoke, or bowling arcade, golf simulations, movie theaters, like so many things. There's so many things going on there. I was actually very surprised by how big it is. Like especially I like to go like Pavilion or 1U or like Sunway Velocity or Sunway Lagoon, like those kind of places are very nice to go. I really like the buildings there. And you might be thinking like those malls in the cities are usual in Malaysia, but it's actually not in Japan. So when you go to Japan, malls are actually located around like countryside areas so that people can drive there and they buy a lot of things and they go back to their home. And usually in Japan, Ion malls are very common, and I haven't really seen other malls, but like Ion malls are very common in Japan in the countryside. If you live in a countryside, you just go to the malls, but if you live in a city, you usually go to like individual buildings or individual shops. That's how you do in Japan usually. I have realized like big malls are very common in Kuala Lumpur, so I really love it. So the 8th thing I want to talk about is the movies, the prices of the movies. And for those of you who are watching this video, thank you very much, and I really appreciate if you hit the like button and subscribe and leave some comments for the YouTube algorithm. And yeah, let's go back to the topic. And the prices of the movies are very cheap here in Malaysia. It's usually about like half or more than half of the price compared to Japan. And one movie is around like 20 ringgit or less than 20 ringgit here in Malaysia. And if you go to like a movie theaters in Japan, you have to pay like 40 to 50 ringgit for like a one movie. So when I graduated high school, I actually stopped going to a movie theater because once you graduate high school, you cannot use like student price for the cheaper price, so you have to pay more. So I stopped going to the movie theater. But since I came to Malaysia, like movie tickets are cheaper here, so I often go there compared to me being in Japan, and my quality of life has improved because of the enjoyment. Like it's one of my favorite things to do. So I'm really glad that I could come to Malaysia and enjoy different kinds of movies. So the 9th thing I want to talk about is weather. It's like pretty common topic, I would say, when people come to Malaysia, and I think like the weather is hot, like as other people say, and there are 3 seasons, like as many people explain in Malaysia. And one season is hot season, and the second season is very hot, like deadly hot season, and the third one is rainy season. And what makes me surprised about being here in Malaysia is like the rain is very heavy sometimes, and the thunderstorm, like thunders are very loud, like very near. I mean, I'm not sure, like I think my place has a problem or something, but like my place used to have like big thunders like striking nearby me, and I was very surprised by the sound of the thunder. But fortunately there's no like blackout is not very common in Malaysia. Compared to Japan, it's much safer when it comes to like thunder, I would say. So yeah, I'm very fine with it. So the last thing I want to talk about is the comfortable residence in Malaysia. It's actually affordable to live in Malaysia, and the price of the rent is way cheaper than Japan. And if you live in a Japanese apartment, especially in Tokyo, you have to live in a very small apartment, and you have to pay like $500 or $600 to live in a just like small apartment where you can hear a lot of the sound or noise from the neighbors. And compared to that, Malaysian like residences, like apartment or like a condos, I live in a condos where it has like a gym, pool, tennis courts, basketball courts, and etc. And it's very convenient for me to go to like restaurants or grocery stores. And it's like, I think it's the most convenient place I have ever lived. in my life. So I'm very glad to live there, and the price is actually not that crazy. I would say if you want to live in this kind of places in Japan, you actually have to pay for like 3 or 4 times more than the price that I'm paying. So it's very nice. When I lived in Tokyo, I felt very depressed about how small the apartment was, and but yeah, I think Malaysia has like such a good place to live for Japanese people, I would say. So in conclusion, those are the culture shocks that I have had here in Malaysia, or like the things I have surprised or realized about being here in Malaysia. And for those of you who want to learn Japanese with me, you can learn Japanese online. Please check the link in the description below. Yeah, since I came to Malaysia, I met so many people, and people here are very nice, and I really enjoy living here, and it's very comfortable for me. And I'm really glad choosing Malaysia to study. I actually came here to study. I can talk about that for another video maybe. And yeah, hope you like this video. Okay, bye.